dog population management is a primary issue in relation to the welfare of the animals, but more than the welfare of the animals is a primary issue in terms of public health. Not managing a stray dog population is a very, very costly fault in terms of public health. Anybody can calculate, for instance, the difference between post-contagious or post-bite treatment in case of rabies compared to what you do and would it cost to control the dog population, to vaccinate the animals. I mean, it's almost, you don't even have to explain that. It's self-evident.
A group of professionals have been brought together to discuss the dog population management worldwide. I think, you know, this doesn't happen very often, and it probably won't happen again in a long, long time. This is a fantastic opportunity.
What's going to come out of this meeting is a distillation of this tremendous creative energy in this group of people who are all bringing their ideas together. And you know, many people in this group are coming from very different perspectives, they have very different opinions, but they've been quite remarkably respectful of each other's views and opinions, and they're really working together to identify where the main problems are, identify what we don't know enough about and where we need to do more research, identify the programs that have been most successful and those that have been not so successful and the possible reasons why they weren't successful. All of this is going to be distilled into a report which will be made available to anybody, any country, any group, any individual who wants to begin to tackle this issue on their home ground, as it were.
We began studying this problem at the Blue Cross in 1962. And the initial reaction when we saw the way the killing was being done in Madras, which had actually started its dog killing program in 1860, was by electrocution of the animals. And our first reaction was that there has to be a kinder way to do it. However, on studying the subject, we realized that if a program that had been in implementation for over 100 years had resulted in neither the number of dogs on the street going down or the incidence of rabies, the two reasons given for conducting that program, there must be something faulty with the entire concept on which the program was based. You know, Albert Einstein famously once said that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. For 100 years plus, the Corporation of Madras had been killing animals, ostensibly to reduce the incidence of rabies and to reduce the number of dogs on the street, and had failed spectacularly on both counts. We therefore felt that something had to be done, and upon studying the subject, we realized that the simplest way to do it was by a system of the birth control. For those who feel that this was some quantum leap in thinking, I can assure you it was not. Because when I grew up in India in the late 50s, early 50s, late 50s, early 60s, the most common sign that we could see anywhere was the inverted red triangle, with a message saying a small family is a happy family. Extrapolating from humans to dogs was not all that difficult, even for me.
My son was bitten by a rabies dog. Just about the time we are about to approach the war in this place, my small little boy got in touch with a rabies dog, and that fellow, I lost that fellow. It was a great disaster to me. I felt it very, very much up to this moment. somebody to treat him. And then everybody was in Sari. Everybody was in the bush. I remember, I think of him, just feel bad.
We see, for example, in the case of rabies, where we can say that most of the cases happen in developing countries nowadays, and more than 95% of the human cases are really due to dog bites. So therefore the importance of controlling the disease in the dog population is crucial to prevent the disease to be transmitted to humans. And also here we see that most of the fatalities really occur in children under 15 that are mostly exposed to these dogs.
Dog populations are really affecting the quality of life of human beings, in the bad and in the good. And this interaction and the way, in fact, you are owning a dog is extremely important to ensure that dog populations will be under control.
What's your dog's name?
Yeah.
What's your name?
Caesar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Eddie.
Dog population management is important for animal welfare because we see that, especially in areas where there are a lot of free-roaming dogs, often the way how they're being treated by the government, by the people, is not always taking good care of them. We see that in many countries, for example, it's really the fear of rabies or the presence of rabies actually that leads to the elimination of dogs in often an uncontrolled manner. So therefore, I think the animal welfare organizations have done a fantastic job in really promoting the importance of animal welfare and using methods that are really humane. So for example, catching the animals and then euthanizing them if needed. But we would always prefer to really find the root causes. Why are there too many dogs roaming around? So here you need to see why are these dogs being abandoned? Why is nobody taking care of them? And there are big differences between different countries, different cultures. So understanding really the underlying causes of why there are, a large amount of dogs is the first step in really addressing the problem. And promoting responsible dog ownership is like the key to success. Because once people take care of their animals, you will not have this amount of free-roaming dogs and the free reproduction of these dogs. And when you combine this with good vaccination campaigns, for example, against rabies, that would be the best way of really controlling, on the one hand, the disease, and on the other hand, also the excess of dogs and the freely roaming animals.
Well, clearly some of the dog populations in the world, especially those in developing countries, experience very poor welfare. They are having to fend for themselves. They're subjected to abuse and cruelty. They are malnourished, many of them. They find it very difficult to find enough food. Survival rates are extremely low for puppies, say, in the first year of life. In these kinds of populations. Most puppies die, and they don't necessarily die well. Many countries are using profoundly inhumane methods to kill these animals when their numbers become excessive. So they're electrocuting them, drowning them, gassing them in gas chambers, shooting them, poisoning them with strychnine. All these methods are being used, and most of these methods cause intense suffering for the animals. So clearly there's a huge potential welfare problem associated with the dog population management issue.
And by dog population management we mean a variety of actions, of activities. For instance, increasing responsible ownerships of dogs, increasing the awareness of individual towards their responsibility towards dog, being them privately owned or community dogs. Therefore, in turn, one of the ultimate objectives of a proper management of dog population is also the increase of their welfare.
Dog population management is a really good example of how a good animal welfare approach dovetails nicely with long-term sustainable ways of controlling disease. And in some areas it's often the only way of doing that. Let me give you rabies as an example. If you cull a local dog population, you almost never eliminate it. There are almost always animals reintroduced. And what you end up doing is, because dogs are territorial, allowing those dogs to roam over a wider area and actually take that disease with them. So you end up spreading the very disease you're trying to curtail. If, however, you take a much more humane approach of vaccinating the animals, making sure that they are healthy, you actually end up then with a natural barrier to rabies, because those animals defend their territory. They prevent other animals from coming in, and you stop the spread of rabies in its tracks. And there's a very good example of that going on as we speak in Bali, where in the last 6 months we've seen a halving of the rate of rabies in humans because of a humane and practical approach to vaccinating animals in that country.
Many people think that dogs can manage out there alone and forget that we took them from the wild thousands of years ago. We made them depend on us, and therefore our responsibility should go on and not just letting them live, suffer out there.
You know, somebody once said that the most important thing that controls dog populations is the sort of attitudes and the values of the people in that area. So even something as simple as having a belief that it's okay for your dog to come and go as he pleases, to live both inside and outside the house, to live without any kind of restraint, is a potential problem, because that dog may be going off and mating with another dog that's also free roaming, and then having puppies that are also out there on the street. And so you get the proliferation of stray dogs in the population. There are huge differences with respect to how many dogs people want to keep. Some cultures like to have lots of dogs. Some don't want any dogs at all. Some cultures want no physical contact with dogs because they believe, their religion makes them believe, that any contact with a dog results in defilement, in some sort of contamination. And so they want no contact with any dog. So those dogs are frequently abused if they even come close to a person. So the person will kick them or throw a rock at them or something like that. So culture, people's beliefs, people's values, people's attitudes influence everything. In fact, they're the primary controlling factor here. And if we are going to be able to solve the problem, we have to tackle those beliefs and those values.
Why is dog population management important for public health? Well, we see that in many countries, really the main driver for dog population management is the danger of putting public health at stake. And this, for example, with regard to zoonotic diseases. So these are diseases transmitted between animals and humans. And there are quite a number of them, just to name you a few: rabies, echinococcosis, leishmaniasis, scabies. There are quite a number of viruses and bacteria and parasites that can be transmitted between animals and humans, and where dogs specifically play an important role in transmitting these diseases to people.
this is not an animal issue per se, this is a human issue. So the problems that are linked to dog population management are often issues that are generated by us people, and where the importance of addressing and changing the human attitudes to change, modify and alter the human behavior has an immense impact on animal welfare in dog population management programs.
Are you contributing to the problem? Are you feeding animals on the street and not prepared to take that little bit of extra responsibility for it? Are you not containing your own pet animal and you don't realise it is the one that's contributing to the street animals? You say, oh, I don't like street animals, I have my own pet. But if your pet's going out in the garden and it's maybe contributing to the stray dogs on the street. So it's about being responsible in every manner, whether it's your own pet, whether you're looking after the animals in the community, or whether you are going to say, no, I have to sort of be more, invest more, not just money but resources, or even just spreading the word that this is not the best welfare for these animals, and I will do something about it, whether it be who I speak to, whether I've got money, whether I've got time. I think we all have a responsibility. We need to work out what it is and be prepared to take it in the way that we can best do it.
All over the world, we still have many examples of inhumane culling practices, of cruel catching and handling practices. Free-roaming dogs are, subject to disease, injury, malnutrition, abusive treatments. So there are animal welfare issues that are integral and that are at the heart of that should be at the heart of a dog population management programs.
Finding ways to control these populations humanely, or as humanely as we can. And there are many ways in which we can do that, hopefully. One is to encourage people to have their animals spayed or neutered, to capture stray dogs, free-roaming dogs, and preferably spay and neuter them, and also vaccinate them against prevalent infectious diseases like rabies. And then, if it's acceptable to the local people, you can put those dogs back on the street and allow them to continue to live their lives in that situation rather than killing them. In some cases, the local people don't want the animal on the street, and in those cases, then you can at least give those dogs a painless death through humane euthanasia instead of the other methods that tend to be used. But those would be the principal ways in which organizations are trying to change the way people deal with this problem.
I think every animal life management is important regarding animal welfare, but when we are talking about dogs, I think an important part of the picture is the resemblance between us, the human being, and the canine being. I think we are very, very similar in many aspects. We prefer to live in groups. We need hierarchy communities, and I think there is a link between us and the dogs that lies over this similarity, and therefore many people care for dogs more than they care for other animals, even though personally I don't think that there should be a difference between the welfare needs of fish, cows, chickens, dogs or cats, even I keep more dogs at home than other animals. So we are linked somehow. Therefore, we are more responsible for their welfare.